Hello, and welcome to Field Trip Fridays from the Medicine and the Arts program at The Ohio State University. My name is Pat Wynn Brown. I'm a member of the MedArts Board, but I'm also a member of this team from Radio OPAC. So, Field Trip Fridays, what is it? It's a video series, and we focus on the arts community and the people who bring the arts to us. They're such a vibrant part of our lives. We know this about the arts. They positively affect our well-being. They are also a key element in the rehabilitation process for incarcerated people. And that's what Radio OPAC is all about. We have our 5 hosts here who you will meet. And know this, OPAC stands for the Ohio Prison Arts Connection. We bring on guests on our show who are working in the prisons and outside of the prisons in the arts. And so you can reach us and see our show at noon on Wednesdays. Go to Facebook and then to the Ohio Prison Arts Connection page, and we'll be there. So today you're going to meet our hosts and find out why OPAC, what this is all about, and how the arts truly benefit the rehabilitation process. So let's start with Dr. Jessie Glover. Welcome, Dr. Glover.
Hi, Pat.
Hi. You are, as you know, a theater artist, an educator, arts advocate, and you lead this merry band, the Ohio Prison Arts Connection. Why did this start with you and a group of people?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm one of the co-founders of Ohio Prison Arts Connection, and I sort of coordinate us and point us in a direction. I and a number of other people started Ohio Prison Arts Connection in 2017 because the work that we do is intense and powerful and important, but sometimes isolating. And so we started to figure out who was doing this work around the state, who was dedicated to making sure that everybody who wants access to the arts, who is justice involved, gets it. And we started to decide what are the kinds of ways that we can put our resources and our expertise together to benefit the public and also to benefit people who are incarcerated or who are otherwise impacted by the justice system.
And then Radio OPAC came about.
Yeah.
And so tell us about the inception and the reason for Radio OPAC.
That's great. So Radio OPAC is a pandemic invention. We started to think about how can we respond to the isolating components of the pandemic and bring people together. And Radio OPAC emerged as a great way to share stories and people's experiences at the intersection of the arts and the justice system. And these stories, we're putting them into the public space because they're for everyone. The arts belong to everyone. Everyone can be impacted by an encounter with the arts or with making the art. It's for people who are incarcerated and for all of us. And our justice system is ours as well. And so this has been an opportunity to bring people both close to the problems of the justice system and far from the problems of the justice system into conversation around the power of creativity and the important work that people are doing in the context of the justice system around the arts.
Well, let me ask you about some of your work in the Marion Correctional Institution.
Yes.
And you and Dr. Roma put on an adaptation of Hamilton not too long ago.
Yes.
And when you worked together, what changes did you see in the incarcerated men from doing that show?
It's great. Yes, you'd mentioned I'm a theater artist, and my work at Marion Correctional has been life-changing for me, and from the experiences that the men have shared with me, life-changing for many of them as well. It is really transformative to create something together and to use the collective power of our creative energies to accomplish something and put something meaningful and good into the world. And that is something by itself that's really important, just creating something, completing something, and doing that together. The men I work with have spoken to that. And another thing that a number of the men I've worked with have spoken to is the importance of tapping into creativity and playfulness, which can sometimes feel vulnerable, but which is so important to our humanity. And allows
Yes.
us to be empathetic, allows us to put ourselves in the shoes of other people, to remember that we're all connected. And that's important for everyone.
Thank you very much. I want to go next to Jared Small. In addition to being a member of the OPAC steering committee, Jared is the Arts and Learning Coordinator at the Ohio Arts Council. He is also an artist and is part of Alt Winds 5 Ensemble. Jared, you're really active with OPAC, and what draws you to this work?
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, it's, gosh, Jesse, I think summed it up really well, but I think the one thing I might add, personally speaking, I think, you know, not only does everyone deserve the arts in their lives and access to them, but that the arts themselves are a human right, that they form a crucial crux of society that everyone can and should have access to. So OPAC, I think, does a brilliant job carrying that torch throughout Ohio. And it's been such a privilege and honor to work with all of these folks here today and every day in making that a reality.
Jared, what does playing in the ensemble do for you personally?
Yeah. So music ensembles in general, to Jesse's point, I think when folks can gather and create as a group, there's certain synergies that go with that and certain synapses that fire in your brain that might not be firing otherwise. And for me, it's just that. It's the collaboration aspect. It's the musicality of it all. An music ensemble is just a conversation amongst musicians through music. And so I love to talk both with music, with my instrument. I'm an oboist in most ensembles, although I play a little bit of violin too. But as an oboist, I get a lot of joy in collaborating with folks and making music amongst others. It's just really great.
And would you mind, Jared, would you tell the audience about some of the guests we've had on Radio OPAC?
I would love to. Where to begin? So a couple that come to my mind. One is Mr. Darren Bell, who's been described as Dayton's native son. And Darren's a musician, a music director, a producer, and he founded Restorative Justice Arts, which emphasizes restorative practices while working with youth. Another duo of folks that I think of are Jonathan Platt and Mary Evans, who work together under the auspices of Story Chain, which essentially, through the art of storytelling, records incarcerated adults' voices to share with their children on the outside. Powerful literacy and community outreach happening there. Richard Duarte Brown is a visual artist and teaching artist who works with high schools in Central Ohio. He works with Transit Arts, their youth arts program. He works with the Ohio Alliance for Arts Education's Art in the House program. He is really just a brilliant, all-around great mentor to kids. And he works to kind of affect positive change and reduce their risk factors. And finally, another one who I think is really special is Miss Jessica Keene. And Jessica is a brilliant tap dancer, and she founded Artisan Dance Studio in Central Ohio with the belief that dance is for everybody. And Jessica, as we understand it, she helps to run the only tap dance class in the world inside a prison, and that happens at the Ohio Reformatory for Women, where she does tap dancing classes. So that's just 4 or 5 really stellar individuals doing pretty great work who we were really happy to feature on Radio OPAC.
Thank you. Yes, and Jessica leading that tap dance class has received so much coverage. But also, my son found a picture at the Ohio Historical Center that was from 1935, and it involves women roller skating at the prison. And it's not just a frivolous picture. There was a superintendent there named Marguerite Riley, and when she came in, she noticed the dirty conditions and the lack of movement that the women were allowed to do. And so she brought in these roller skates, and here they are skating through the halls. And this is not a sense of rewarding bad behavior. When a person is going through transformation, they need to be able to have clean conditions. They need to be able to move. They need to be able to have recreation. And she brought recreation and entertainment and job training to the prisons. And to continue that work at Ohio Reformatory for Women, I do 2 classes. One is a charm school. It's fun, but it's potent, Ladies of Success. And then also an Arts and Letters Society where I bring in artists for the women to learn from and to be entertained by. But we also had a guest who we interviewed on Radio OPAC, a very special guest, and then he stayed. And that would be Edward A. Julian Sr., who is right here with us today. Hello, Edward.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Edward is a dynamic author, a poet, a motivational speaker, and a professional in personal transformation. He's the author of the book, Begin, Believe, Become, 3-step process for transformation and achievement. Edward, you work in the community. You also do public speaking, and you do spoken word art. Could you tell us a little bit about your art that you do?
Yes, well, I mainly got introduced to art through my mom. She gave me a poem when I was young, about 12 years old. So reading that poem, I always, enjoy reading poetry. And when I got older, I decided that, I tried to write a poem, and the first poem was, I didn't think I did pretty well. I didn't think I did pretty good on it. So I just kept writing, stayed at it. And, while I was incarcerated, because I did serve 14 years in a federal prison, I just continued to write in my diary. So I was sending poems home, and in prison, I know we've been talking about Radio OPAC and how prison and arts affect people inside and outside of prison. So in prison, I was writing, and they didn't give us pens, and we didn't have no electronics as far as computers or laptops, so we would have to write with pencil. So I used to stay up at night and write with my pencil, and it got to the point where I was writing so much that right here on the tip of my finger that it would bleed. And I used to have to take it and wrap it, put a Band-Aid on it, some tape, whatever I can come up with to get that cushion so I can continue to write. And so while in prison, I wrote over 300 poems, 7 books, and a curriculum.
And you are such a wonderful addition to our team of hosts for the radio show. You've also written a piece for us about Radio OPAC that we're asking you to read to the audience today.
Yes. Yeah. When you actually asked me to write the piece, it was pretty easy. I sat down and because I've been working with you guys, and I just want to say thank you for bringing me on the team, the steering team, and being a part of Radio OPAC. And it was a blessing to be a part of this, because now I'm able to not only share my experience of being incarcerated, but now I can be that voice for people who have been incarcerated and people on the outside to say, hey, this is the transition I made, this the steps I took, these are the things that I did. And being a part of Radio OPAC, I'm having that opportunity to be that voice. So I wrote this poem for Radio OPAC, and I'll start with it. Ohio Prison Art Connection is a coalition of people treating everyone as our equal. We include returned citizens, professional teaching artists, ODRC staff members, reentry professionals, community supporters, representatives from higher education, funders, and more. It's the golden rule that led us to shore. It's the release we all need, rehabilitating lives through art for you to succeed. Unpack the power of arts. Unlock your spirit, unlock your heart. Inside and outside of the justice system, outside and inside, Radio OPAC will listen. We help build healthy communities, cultivating economic opportunities. Weekly doses of art and humanity, weekly conversation for you to be all you can be. It's our human responsibility helping to change your trajectory.
Yay, Edward. Thank you so much. And when we speak about trajectories, there's some important work going on also at The Ohio State University in the medical school. And there's a group of medical students under the direction of Sheila O'Carey who are working with the Physicians for Human Rights. And their subgroup has to do with working with the new docs in learning how best to diagnose and treat incarcerated people. And they're doing this through the Ohio Reformatory for Women with Warren Boldoff, with Annette Dominguez, and they'll be holding forums, discussions, interactions with the women inside and outside of prison. So we're very proud of their work changing the trajectory of the people's health within the incarcerated situation. And thank you so much, Edward, for the work on your poem too. So this brings us to our fifth Radio OPAC host, and she has the most experience of anybody working inside and outside the prisons of all of us, with 45 years experience. And that's Dr. Catherine Roma, who's a social activist, choral director, educator, director of community and prison choirs. Welcome to you, Kathy.
Hi, how is everyone? Thank you, Pat. I started my first prison choir in 1993 at Warren Correctional, and that was Umoja Men's Chorus, and I directed that till 2016. And now in my retirement and pre-COVID, I should say, I direct 3 choirs in Ohio prisons. So it's important to me to nurture voices of men and women who are incarcerated, both in a literal and in a figurative sense. The residents grow vocally, learning about breathing. Just think about it, breathing and trusting your own voice, and in an environment that doesn't really do that. And then along the way, learning about musical language and terminology, etc. And choral singing for me is about building community, community because all voices matter. You can have an absolutely incredible and beautiful singing voice, but not know how to use your voice, or you might not know anything about music, but you can learn. And listening is such an important art in the study of music. And I've witnessed so many amazing singers increase their listening skills, and they hear things differently just because of their training. So I wanted to give 2 quick examples. One of them has to do with, I invited Dr. Molly Stone from Chicago to come and teach a Kyrie from a rural village on the island of Corsica in the Mediterranean. And the piece consists of simple layering of 3 parts. And it was the unexpected harmony comes at the end of each of these 3 little segments. And so it was incredible to see the men sparkle and understand that something special and unusual was happening when the tenors came in with their line. So an incredible example of listening. And the second example is all 3 choirs, Hope Through Harmony Women's Choir at Dayton, and Ubuntu Men's Chorus at London Correctional, and Coogee Men's Chorus at Marion Correctional, all participated in Fidelio, Beethoven's opera. And they sang in German, and I think they thought I was a little bit crazy to bring in an opera and have them, do parts of that. But every single person everyone, men and women, they became fully engaged, and they allowed themselves to lean in and let down their inhibitions and their guard and their prior thoughts about singing opera. And in fact, the women wanted to sing more pieces in German, and so we were learning Lift Thine Eyes from Mendelssohn's Elijah. So these are things that people thought was way out of their category, singing in Latin, singing in German. And I think that the most moving thing that Jesse's already spoken to is our performance of Hamilton. And I had done also performances of Les Mis in both the men's prisons. And the engaged vulnerability, I think, is what has moved me the very most. And, you know, to see the men really rise to the occasion of professional caliber performances. And, you know, singing is the most vulnerable art because your instrument is your voice. And
Yes.
so these are just some of the things that have happened and in my experience over these many years.
And we have Kathy to thank also for our opening music, because she connected us with It's a New World, and people can go back and listen to our opening music by Eddie Robertson, who is incarcerated. So we thank you, Kathy, so much for connecting us to that beautiful work that we used for our show. And do join us on Wednesdays at noon, and join Field Trip Fridays on Friday at noon from the Ohio State University Med Arts program. And Jesse, we're going to see a clip from Hamilton that you and Dr. Roma worked on together. But before we get to that, to end our show, how did the idea for doing Hamilton come up?
It was really the encouragement of the men that we work with. They wanted to tackle something big. And honestly, for a couple of years, I had guys I work with asking, when are we going to do Hamilton? The time came. We spent about 10 months working in rehearsal on the piece, both in terms of staging and in terms of the musical rehearsals. And to Dr. Roma's point, the men stepped up at every occasion, not only to create excellent art, but to protect the process and each other. So we're really excited to be able to share this short excerpt with you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank this team of very special people for doing this today for the Med Arts program at The Ohio State University. And we usually with our shows leave a few words of an inspiration before we get to Hamilton. And these are from Kurt Vonnegut, who advised us to practice the arts, no matter if you're really good at it or not so good at it. Practice them. He said to find out what's inside you and to make your soul grow. So I think all of your souls will grow once you see this piece from Hamilton. Thank you for joining us on Field Trip Fridays. My name is Pat Wynn Brown, and here is Hamilton from Marion Correctional Institute.
Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who is this kid? What's he gonna do?
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Shots! It's time to take a shot!
This is not a moment, it's a movement. We're all the hungriest brothers with something to prove when foes oppose us. We take an honest stand, we roll like Moses, claiming our promised land. And if we win our independence, is that a guarantee of freedom for all defendants? Or will the blood we shed begin an endless cycle of vengeance and death with no defendants? I'm past patiently waiting, I'm passionately smashing every expectation, every action to act of creation. I'm laughing in the face of casualties and sorrow. For the first time I'm thinking past tomorrow. And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. We're gonna rise up. It's time to take a shot. Rise up. Take a shot, shot, shot. Hey yo, it's time to take a shot. Time to take a shot. And I am not throwing away my shot. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens.
I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens, the room where it happens.
I've got to be
In the room where it happens,
I've got to be
the room where it happens,
I've got to be in
the room where it happens,
I gotta be
the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens. Click, boom.
I was younger than you are now when I was given my first command. And even now I lie awake, knowing history has its eyes on me.
Who lives who dies, who tells your story.
I know that we can win. I know that greatness lies in you. But remember from here on in,
history has its eyes.